It looks like the Falcons are finally starting to drop some bags on some NA players and some better players in the league to hopefully give XNID some help. And then we have a whole bunch of other roster moves and things to touch on in this video. But we're starting here because this is the biggest news without a doubt. Sources here from Ronnie Intel that the Falcons are looking to bring in Pred and Arcides plus Prolu or Fellow to pair alongside XNID as their new roster going forward this season. Obviously, this team is probably out of the champs contention. I think they'd have to like go win a major in order to even make champs. And when you look at a team of XNID, Pred, Arcides, and then either Prolu or Fellow, probably not a team that's going to win an event, right? That team is probably still a relatively mid team in the grand scheme of things, but this is much better than what they just had and instantly makes this Vegas team a team that's definitely going to win a hard point for the first time this season. And definitely going to win a series here at some point because this is much, much better, as I said, than what they just had. But pretty interesting to see a guy like Pred signing with the Falcons. It seems like it was really his only option, being as like Cloud9 didn't want to make a change and he doesn't want to run a flex role, so going to maybe Ravens in place of Vivid wasn't really on the table. I'm gonna imagine he's getting a pretty nice salary, pretty nice contract here at the Falcons just to sort of hold him over up until next season to maybe explore further options or potentially build a super team over at Vegas. Because if they lock down a guy like Pred this early on, right now, halfway through this season, their first season in the league, next season, I don't really know who's free agents and who's not. Could potentially see a couple other big name players head over to the Falcons and have them be, you know, a contender for next season in what I believe is Black Ops 7. And then on top of that, a little side note from Rostermania, OPTIC is apparently going to be streaming their scrims versus LAT today. They were also going to be playing LAG, but LAG apparently chalked their set, which I believe has to do with roster changes, which we're going to touch on right after this. But they're going to be scrimming LAT today. It's probably going to be at around 2 Eastern is when typically the first set of scrims starts. And OPTIC streaming scrims again means I am going to be watch partying scrims here again on the channel. You know, just a big shout out to you guys. Record viewership yesterday, over 1,200 people at one point. Absolutely insane. So if you want to watch scrims, especially OPTIC scrims and whoever they play in the coming weeks, as long as they continue to stream them, I'll watch them here on YouTube. So you don't got to worry about Twitch ads, or if you have YouTube, you know, premium and it's something you wanted to use, we'll be live over here just so you know. But talking about Gentlemates, they have officially announced that they are benching Lins and he is going to challengers, which we're going to touch on after this, right? I have this sorted out so we can go down the line in a way that makes sense. But Lins officially benched, still obviously a part of Gentlemates, but officially benched. And Johnny is the rumor to be coming in for him. This has not been officially announced. And, you know, we'll get to that when they do officially announce that, probably here in a day or two. The reason I think they're chalking their scrims versus OPTIC is because they're likely making a 2-man change. Breaking Point touched on it on their Dope Check show last night, where Rab asked, is one move enough? And Trey said, I've heard it's not a 1-man change. And then Jacob Hale, who, I mean, everybody knows Jacob Hale is one of the best, you know, most reputable leakers and Rostermania guys in the scene. He said, make it a double with the little gif here. Kind of, you know, in reference that LAG is probably making another change, most likely going to be for Priesta. So the roster is looking like it's going to be Kismet, Johnny, Lunars +1. Now, who that +1 might be, I think maybe there's a couple options. Potentially Fellow could be that guy if he is not end up going to this roster here with the Vegas Falcons. If they decide to go with Prolu, maybe Fellow could be a guy here because Fellow did team with Lunars and Challengers, had a lot of success on Omid Brooklyn. Maybe they could look at a guy like Kenny, right, who's still out there. Maybe they could try to pull some Challengers players that are still out there and available. But who this second man change for LAG is actually one of the things I really don't have any rumors on, which is interesting because I've kind of heard about a lot of these moves previously, but the second change for LAG, I don't really have any intel on, unfortunately. But to move into Minnesota ROKKR, Paul X obviously is being dropped from this team. He was seen in the Discord here, talking to FAZE admins, asking how to sign into his account. Kind of, you know, meaning he's going to play in Challengers, right? He was in the Discord here for Challengers. He's going down there, and the rumor was Arcides was going to be taking his spot. But now if Arcides is going to Falcons to probably make double the money, triple the money he would make at the Minnesota ROKKR, who is going to replace him on this team? And there are some rumors floating around that Kenny could be the guy to replace Paul X on this team if it is not Arcides. Maybe a guy like Fellow, right? Like I said, if he doesn't go to Vegas, maybe he doesn't go to LAG, maybe he comes here to ROKKR. But Kenny potentially could be a guy here to fill in, take that like AR role from Paul X, be a bit of a leader, and hopefully help this team of young guns stay composed and continue to be a dark horse throughout the season. Because ROKKR's a really good team, man. Estrel and Geo have been great. Nero's been a little hit or miss in recent matches, but he's obviously got a super high ceiling. And Kenny, even though individually, as you can see by the card on screen, has not been great, I still think there's some value. And if teams still want to play with him, which it seems like they do, that's definitely just something to consider. So Kenny potentially to the ROKKR could be an interesting move. OMIT your Major 2 Challengers champions, announced their new roster. Linz and Spark coming in to team up with Brack and Standy. So obviously Johnny and RCD's no longer here, meaning that they are heading to the league. This is definitely a really good team. I mean, Linz obviously fresh out of the league, right, getting benched. And then Spark's been one of the top players in Challengers. So this OMIT team is going to be one to look at. But I also wanted to throw this in here. Brack is a 5-time Challengers land winner, which is the most by far. This guy's been running Challengers. Now, obviously, from Challengers to the league is definitely a jump. There's a difference there. If you're running Challengers, does not mean you're going to be great in the league. But even when Brack was in the CDL, I thought he was a pretty good player on that Mutineers team a few years ago. So he's a guy who I really think needs to get a shot in the coming, month, or maybe even going into next season, because he's been consistently good in Challengers. And unfortunately, winning down there doesn't mean you get to the league. You kind of have to have the individual stats, but he has that too. So could be, maybe there's potential that Brack still gets the call up despite, being announced to still be on OMIT. And then beside the roster changes, we got to look at the Season 3 maps coming to multiplayer and potentially maybe something that we could see in the CDL, right? We obviously know firing range is coming back. You can see the TAC map there. Probably too small, especially with the current movement and the way how fast, you are in this game. Maybe we see it for SND. That could be pretty interesting. I'd love to see firing range SND. Haven, this is the one I think people have maybe been the most interested by. It's hard to tell how big the map is, obviously, based on the TAC map, but it looks like it's got, relatively 3 lanes. It looks like it's not, kind of too cluttered or too open. Could see some potential in Haven. Nomad, this is a 2v2 map as well, so that's not going to work, but Barrage here is also a 6v6 map. Looking at the mini map, this isn't going to work. It's basically 2 lanes. It looks really cluttered, really kind of messy. I don't see this being in the league, but Haven to me, or potentially firing range SND, could be interesting. But that's a quick update for you here on Friday morning about everything Rostermania, potentially CDL related. If you want to watch the scrims with me, whether it's today for Optic versus LAT or just in the future, make sure to sub, put noties on so you get notified when I go live. And just thank you guys for all the support. It just is never ending. I can't honestly express how much I appreciate it. So thank you all, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.